The day HOA President Diane Whitlock cranked open my headgate and ran my reservoir into their golf pond. She was smiling. That reservoir held 40 acres of water my grandfather dug out by hand, and they drained it twice in 6 weeks. What Diane did not know was folded in 3 inside my father's desk drawer, under a stack of feed receipts. By the end, all 186 of those homes would pay for their own dust. Let me take you back to where it started. My name is Ray Mercado. I'm 52, and I'd run my father's ranch alone 14 months. 310 acres of high desert bench east of Alder Springs. Apricot rows, 22 acres of alfalfa, a reservoir that covers 40 acres. My grandfather scraped it out with mules before the First World War. Dad held it 60 years. Then he passed in March, and it was mine. Out here, land without water is just a view. 2 miles of concrete ditch off Cottonwood Creek. Creek to headgate, headgate to flume, flume to reservoir. That's the ranch in one sentence. Every April I cleaned it by hand. Cold shovel handle, wet concrete, cottonwood fluff on the first water. That April I cleaned out Dad's desk. The second drawer held feed receipts 30 years deep. Under them sat a cream-colored paper folded in 3, soft at the creases, a hard lump of a seal on one corner. It would not lie flat, and every time I shut that drawer it caught, so I put the receipts back on top and shut it anyway. Marta Beeler came up the bank while I worked. 71, silver braid, apron, shears in the pocket. Her husband Hollis rode this ditch for the county 41 years. Tomas would have had that cleaned in March, Marta said. Tomas had 2 good knees, I said. Tomas had 2 bad ones at 80, Marta said. He just started earlier. If I sit down, the ditch doesn't get cleaned. That's the trouble with you Mercados, Marta said. You'd rather do a thing than say a thing. She laughed, then looked at the mesa where the Vista Ridge houses sit behind their wall. Your dad never once made a call on this creek, Marta said. 60 years, not one. A call? Everybody up there grew up thinking that's how water works, Marta said. Nobody ever told them different, and your father never saw the point. I didn't ask what she meant. I was a man pulling weeds in a ditch. 18 days later, the letter came. It was a friendly letter. Cream envelope, embossed seal, signed by Diane Whitlock, president of the Vista Ridge Homeowners Association. It welcomed me to the neighborhood 14 months late, then proposed a community water-sharing arrangement. I wrote back 2 lines. The ditch and reservoir belong to the ranch, not the community. 18 days later, on a Friday in late May, I came over the rise above the reservoir and stood on the break. The water was down 6 feet in one day. The old water line sat on the bank like a bathtub ring, wet and new. My grandfather's rowboat, which floats all summer, lay tipped on its side in the mud. I drove down to the headgate. My brass lock lay on the apron, 1 link of chain cut clean through. The turnout was cranked to the top of the stem, and my water went down the spur and up the mesa toward their golf pond. Colt Vance leaned on a white cart with a tablet on his chest. Diane Whitlock stood beside him in an emerald green blazer, white folder under her arm, watching the water go. "Morning, Mr. Mercado," Diane said. "That's my headgate," I said. "That's my lock on the ground." "It's community water, Mr. Mercado," Diane said. "It's been community water up here since before you came home." "That is not your water," I said. "You cut my lock to take it." "Colt, did you cut a lock?" Diane said. "I removed an obstruction from a shared facility," Colt said. She smiled with her chin level. Not a shout. The smile people use on a slow child. "The pond is a community amenity," Diane said. "So are the fountains. Our residents pay for them. You've been holding 40 acres of it behind a dam and calling it yours." "It's been mine since before your subdivision had a name," I said. Colt handed me 2 pages. One was a covenant my father signed in 1994 when he sold 60 acres of frontage. The other was a fine. "For $100 a week," Diane said, Failure to maintain green landscaping along the parkway. Your frontage is brown, Mr. Mercado. It's an eyesore. My frontage is brown because you're standing in my water, I said. Then water it, Diane said. Share and share alike. Then Colt drove her up the mesa, and I stood on the dry step of my headgate and listened to my reservoir run uphill. 2 days later, I filed a request to be heard. They gave me the first Tuesday in June. The Vista Ridge clubhouse has a tile fountain in the lobby and air conditioning you feel in your teeth. 40 homeowners sat in folding chairs. I stood at a little microphone. The reservoir and the ditch are ranch property, I said. The turnout is mine. Somebody cut my lock on the 22nd of May and took 6 feet of storage in one day. I'm asking this board to stop it and to pay for it. Mr. Mercado's father signed this in 1994, Diane said, and she read it out loud, slow, like a schoolteacher reading a note from a bad student. Landscape upkeep along the parkway. Cooperation with community standards. Shared maintenance of common amenities. She looked out over the page. Shared, Diane said. Shared, Mr. Mercado. That covenant is about mowing a strip of grass along a road, I said. Mowing grass doesn't move water out of a reservoir. Who is this guy, the fellow with the shovel? A man in a golf shirt said, loud enough for the room. The room laughed. Not all of it, but enough of it. My grandfather dug that ditch, I said. I clean it every April with a shovel. Nobody up here ever put $1 into it. Our dues maintain this entire community, Diane said, including the water that comes into it. Motion to grant Mr. Mercado's request, she said then. All in favor. Nothing. All opposed. 5 hands, 5 out of 5 including hers, and she smiled the whole time. The board has spoken, Mr. Mercado, Diane said. Pay the fine or leave it. Either way, the water sharing continues. And if I lock my own gate, then we'll be having a different conversation, Diane said. Thank you for coming. Next item. The next item was cart path lighting, and the room clapped. I walked out past that tile fountain, running clean and cold, and sat in my truck before I could turn the key. I did the boring things first. I bought a brass lock and chained that turnout shut myself on my own ground. I started a notebook. Date, time, water level, who stood where. By the 9th of June, the fines were at $1,200 coming certified. Every envelope carried the same line. Unpaid amounts may be recorded as a lien against the property. I drove into Alder Springs and sat down with a lawyer, Pete Ordonez. He read the covenant twice. This is a landscaping covenant, Ray, Pete said. This is about shrubs. Then how can they fine me? They can send anybody anything, Pete said. Making it stick is a different animal. So I fight it. You can, Pete said. It's $200 an hour to fight a $400 a week fine, and they have a whole subdivision paying dues to cover their side. That's how ranchers lose ranches, slowly and on paper. Find yourself something that doesn't cost $200 an hour. On the 16th of June, the drone started. 7 in the morning, every morning. It came off the mesa, dropped over my pump house, hung 8 feet above the roof, and turned a slow circle. Colt Vance stood on the ridge with the controller around his neck. When I came out with coffee, he waved. I waved back and wrote it in the notebook. 7:04, aircraft over pump house, 4 minutes. On the 23rd, the invoice came. $12,400. Ditch maintenance assessment, community share of upkeep. They were billing me to clean my own ditch. I called the office and got Diane on the 3rd try. You're charging me for work I did by hand, I said. You maintain a shared facility, Mr. Mercado, Diane said. Shared facilities get assessed. That is how a community works. It isn't shared, it's mine. You keep saying that, Diane said, and I could hear the smile in it. Saying a thing doesn't make it so. Then what would? Bring me a paper, Diane said. One paper from the county that says this water is yours and not ours. Bring me that and I'll carry it to the board myself. Until then, pay the invoice. I told her I'd bring her a paper, but I didn't have one. I had a deed and a stubborn streak, and I thought that was the hand. The last letter came on the 30th of June. Sign the addendum within 10 days, or the association records a lien. I set it on the kitchen table where it sat 4 days. Then came the 4th of July. I drove to a cousin's place Friday and came back Saturday. You can hear a full reservoir from the ranch road. The Saturday it was quiet. There was a contractor's pump on my bank, 6-inch trash pump, hose over the dam. The turnout stood at the top of the stem again, my lock in the weeds. The reservoir was mud. 40 acres of it, a puddle of brown water in the deepest hole, the rowboat on its side, the trout my father stocked gone with it. I shut the pump off, the only thing I touched all day. A pump on my land pulling my water is mine to shut off. I called the association office and got Colt Vance. "Compliance," Colt said. "There's a pump sitting on my dam," I said. "That's authorized work on a shared facility," Colt said. "Authorized by who?" "By the board, Mr. Mercado," Colt said. "The board doesn't own this ground." "You can raise that at the August meeting," Colt said, and hung up on me. I walked down to the flume. Here's the thing about that flume. It's a concrete throat with a staff gauge and a plank lid. The lid is warped, and I'd been meaning to cut a new one for a year, and every time it stuck I said so and didn't. The underside of that lid is covered in my father's grease pencil. Dates and numbers, 1 line a day, back to the year I was born, when he poured it. As a kid, I thought it was scribble. I lifted it, read the gauge, wrote the number down, and dropped it. Then I looked at the alfalfa, 22 acres, second cutting, 6 days from ready. Without the reservoir, there was nothing to put on it, and in July a field goes green to brittle in 90 hours. Marta came down at 5 with her phone. "Hollis had a word for this," Marta said. "Don't say it." "I'm 71, Marta said. "I'll say what I like." "Then say it." "He'd have said they steal in daylight because nobody ever made them do it at night," Marta said. "Get your camera, Ray." She walked the bank with me, photographing everything twice. "Sign the back of every one," Marta said. "Name and date, I'll do the same." That's what Hollis would say. By Monday, my alfalfa was the color of a paper bag, and the golf course on the mesa was greener than I'd ever seen it. 22 acres, Marta said. Gone in 4 days, and they're up there watering a fairway with it. On the 12th of July, the association recorded the lien, $15,800 against 310 acres. 3 days later, my banker called. "Ray, I'm not calling your note," Sherry said, "but the committee reviews collateral every summer, and a recorded lien shows up like a stain on a good shirt. Get it off there." "I'm working on it." "Work faster," Sherry said. "And Ray, your second cutting didn't come in. They know that too." On the 18th, a man from a development company in Reno left a card in my gate with a number for the ranch on the back. About 60% of what the place is worth with water. That afternoon, Diane Whitlock drove down to my gate. She didn't get out, just put the window down and laid her arm along the door, easy as ordering lunch. "I heard about the note," Diane said. "Small towns." "Did you?" "Ray, hear this from me and not from a lawyer," Diane said. "Nobody up there wants you to lose this ranch. Sign the addendum and the board vacates the lien in August. You keep your house, we keep the water, everybody stops losing money. And the ditch. The ditch becomes a community facility," Diane said. "You'd maintain it under contract. We'd pay you for it. There's dignity in that. My grandfather dug that ditch behind a mule. And your grandfather isn't the one the bank is calling," Diane said. "I'm trying to help you, Ray." She was smiling when she said dignity. "Get off my road," I said. "That's the spirit," Diane said, and drove up the hill. "Now, I want to ask you something, and I'd like your answer in the comments because I've turned it over for a year and still don't know if I was right." That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the addendum and a calculator. Sign it, and the lien goes. The bank settles. I keep the house my grandfather built. Fight it, and I could lose all of it over a principal. I'm 52, no children, bad knee. What would you have done? Tell me down there. Here's what I did. At 11 that night, I got up for the loan file. The loan papers were in that second drawer, under 30 years of receipts. And that crooked cream-colored paper caught the drawer again, same as every time since April, and I was tired enough to be mean about it. I pulled it out to throw away. Then I stood under the kitchen light and unfolded it. 2 pages, typed on a machine, a court caption across the top, a notary seal in the corner. In the district court of the county, in the matter of the adjudication of the waters of Cottonwood Creek. Under that, a table. Mercado ditch. 4 2/10 cubic feet per second. Priority date, March 1911. Page 2 gave the reservoir its own line. Storage, 40 acres, same priority. I sat down. Look, I knew we had water rights. Every outfit out here has them. What I didn't know, at 11:30 at night in my socks, was what that date does. Next morning, I drove to Marta's. "Where did you get that?" Marta said. "Dad's desk." She put her glasses on and read it a long time, then went in the back room and came out with 4 cardboard boxes. "Hollis's ditch books," Marta said. 41 years of them. Every headgate on this creek every day, who took what. "Marta, what is a call?" She set the boxes on the floor. "That's your father's paper talking," Marta said. "Ask the state. Ask them today." 2 days later, I called the State Division office. I expected a machine. I got a young woman named Priya, who asked me to read her the caption and the table. I read it twice. "Sir, do you know what you're holding?" Priya said. "An old paper." "You're holding the senior right on that creek," she said. "March of 1911. Everything junior to you is junior by definition. The subdivision permit on Cottonwood is dated 1971. "That's 60 years," I said. 60 years, Priya said. "In this state, water goes oldest first. In a short year, the newest user shuts down, then the next newest, until the oldest user is satisfied. It isn't a lawsuit. It's an administrative order." "How does a thing like that start?" "You place a call," Priya said. "The senior holder tells us he isn't getting his decreed amount. A commissioner comes out, measures the creek, and regulates the junior diversions." I asked when a man could do that. "You can place a call any day you like, sir," Priya said. "Your family just never has." Here's what I did next, and I'll be plain about it. Every step has a name, and I invented none of them. On the 24th of July, I placed a written call on Cottonwood Creek. 2 pages, a copy of the decree, my own measurements. Pete filed a county suit the same afternoon. Trespass and conversion for the water taken through my headgate in May and July, plus a demand to strike the lien. Then Pete sent the association a preservation letter. "Do not delete any photographs, videos, or flight records," Pete said. That's the whole letter. "Ray, they've flown a camera over your place every morning for 6 weeks. Whose footage is that?" "Theirs." "That's right," Pete said. "And now they have to keep it, and now I get to ask for it." I spent 2 days photographing the underside of that warped lid, section by section with a ruler in the frame. 52 years of my father's grease pencil. 1 line a day. Every day of every irrigation season. Marta's boxes gave me the other half. "Hollis wrote down what every gate on this creek took," Marta said. "Every day, right up to the year he retired. He'd want you using them." Commissioner Dale Ruiz called on the 29th. He has a flat voice, like a man reading a parts list. "I have your call, Mr. Mercado," Ruiz said. "I have the 1911 decree and I have the 1971 permit. I'll come out and measure Saturday the 2nd. And then? Then whatever the creek says," Ruiz said. "If you aren't getting 4 2/10 cubic feet per second, I regulate the juniors until you are, in order, newest first." "How long does that take?" "About as long as it takes me to walk to their headgate," Ruiz said. Then I asked the one question that had kept me up nights. "Commissioner, does any of this touch their drinking water?" "No, sir," Ruiz said. "Household water in that subdivision comes off the town line out of Alder Springs. Different system, different pipe. What I can regulate is their creek permit, and that permit is for the pond and the sprinklers." "Then do it," I said. The invitation came on the 30th, cream envelope, embossed seal. Vista Ridge Founders Day, Saturday the 2nd of August at the community pond. The board would recognize sponsors, announce the summer assessment, and invite Mr. Ray Mercado to the front to sign. I wrote back one word: yes. Then I told nobody, not Marta, not even Pete. Saturday the 2nd of August came in hot and still. Vista Ridge does Founders Day at the pond. White tents, a caterer, a bounce house, 200 folding chairs on turf so green it looked painted. Both fountains ran full height in 104 degrees. I walked in at 10 of 10 in denim and a canvas vest, and people looked at me the way you look at a truck parked crooked. Diane ran the program from a little stage. Emerald blazer, white folder, hair up. She looked good, she always does. 2 housekeeping items, Diane said. First, your board has voted 5-0 to adopt the community water sharing bylaw as a permanent part of our governing documents. That protects this pond, these fountains, and all 214 acres of grass you're standing on. People clapped. Second, Diane said, the association has recorded a lien against the Mercado Ranch for unpaid fines and a $12,400 ditch assessment, totaling $15,800. Nobody clapped for that one. A few looked at their shoes. Most looked at me. Now, we take no pleasure in this, Diane said. But a community only works if everybody carries the same bucket. Some neighbors carry it. Some have to be handed it. And some have to be shown the handle. She found me in the crowd, smiled, and held a pen out over the edge of the stage. "Mr. Mercado is here," Diane said. "Ray, come on up. Sign the addendum and this board will vacate that lien today in front of everybody, and then we can all go eat." 200 people turned around. That walk was 40 yards of somebody else's grass, in work boots, a whole subdivision watching, a woman holding a pen out at me like a spoon at a baby. I got to the front. I did not take the pen. "Diane," I said, "back in June you told me to bring you a paper." "I did," Diane said. "You said one paper from the county, and you'd carry it to the board yourself." "I said it in front of witnesses, and I meant it," Diane said. "Do you have one?" "I do." She laughed. Half the crowd laughed with her, and she leaned into the microphone. "Ray, honey," Diane said, "there isn't a paper in this county that beats a signed covenant, but by all means, let's see it." Then a gray state truck came up the service road trailing dust, a sheriff's unit behind it, and both stopped on the cart path at the edge of all that green. Commissioner Dale Ruiz got out with a measuring staff and a folder. Sheriff Ann Kessler put her hat on and walked over with him. Nobody in those chairs said a word. "I'm looking for the president of the association," Ruiz said. "That's me, Diane Whitlock. This is a private event." "Ma'am, I'm the water commissioner for this division," Ruiz said, and handed her a folder. "That's a regulation order on Cottonwood Creek. There's a call on the creek. I'm curtailing junior diversions this morning, in priority order, until the senior right is satisfied." "I don't know what any of that means," Diane said. "It means somebody older than you is thirsty," Ruiz said. Then he said the rest to the crowd. "Vista Ridge holds a permit on this creek dated June of 1971, Ruiz said. "That's the newest right on this stretch. In a dry season, the newest right shuts off first." "What's the oldest?" a man called out. "The oldest right on this creek is the Mercado ditch," Ruiz said. "Adjudicated decree. Priority date, March of 1911. 4 2/10 cubic feet per second, plus 40 acres of storage." I took my father's paper out of my vest pocket, folded in 3, and held it up so the front row could see. "You told me in June to bring you a paper, Diane," I said. "Check the date." You could hear the fountains. Diane's smile did not come off right away. That's the part I remember. It hung there while her eyes went around the crowd for somebody to agree. She looked at it about 4 seconds. Then the smile came off. And what was under it was not a smile. "This is absurd," Diane said. "We hold a signed covenant with his father. Landscaping and shared amenities, recorded at the county." "I've read it," Ruiz said. "A covenant moves land, ma'am. It does not move water. Water moves by decree or by an application filed with my office. There has never been one on this ditch." "You can't do this," Diane said. "There are children up here. There are elderly residents. Household water in this subdivision comes off the town line, ma'am," Ruiz said. "No one's tap is affected. My order covers your pond, your fountains, and your turf irrigation." Then he walked, past the tents, past the bounce house, down the cart path to the Vista Ridge headgate by the 8th tee. 200 people followed. Ruiz put both hands on the wheel and cranked that gate to the bottom, ran a chain through the frame, snapped a state lock on it, and wired a tag to the wheel. It took 90 seconds for the pond to notice. The north fountain coughed first. It fell from 40 feet to 15, wobbled, sank to a bubble, and quit. The south went behind it. Then the fairway sprinklers stopped, the whole line at once. A man 2 rows back turned around. "Can he do that?" the man said. "He already did," Sheriff Kessler said. Nobody else spoke. 200 people stood on that grass in 104 degrees and listened to their golf course go quiet. Diane Whitlock was still holding the pen. Turf dies from the outside in, slower than you'd think. They hauled water first. Marta counted the tankers from her porch. 6,000 gallons a truck, Marta said. 214 acres drinks that before lunch. They'll quit inside 2 weeks. They quit in 9 days. By the 18th of October, 11 weeks after Ruiz locked that gate, the fairways were the color of a paper bag and the pond a ring of cracked mud. The course carried a $2.1 million valuation. The appraiser in November used the word unimproved. Here's the itemized part, and I kept every page. On the 9th of September, the board voted a special assessment on each of 186 homes for hauled water, turf replacement, and legal fees. $8,900 a house. On the 27th of September, the membership voted. Diane Whitlock was removed as president, 148 to 31. 2 board members resigned that week. Colt Vance was let go in August after his own drone footage went into the county file. On the 4th of December, the court ruled, and Pete called me from the courthouse steps. "Void," Pete said. "The addendum, the bylaw, the fines, all of it. A landscape covenant conveys no water right and never did. Your lien is struck." And the rest. $61,000 on the trespass and conversion, Pete said. Plus they rebuild 2 miles of your ditch in concrete at their expense. Ray, your father's grease pencil, did that. 52 years of daily readings, Hollis Beeler's books, and their own video of their crew at your headgate. They poured that ditch in March, over my grandfather's line. Nobody up there lost a drop of drinking water. Not one house, not one day. Their taps run off the town line and always did. What they lost was a pond, a golf course, and 214 acres of grass they'd been watering with somebody else's river. In October, the 6 irrigators on Cottonwood Creek voted me onto the Ditch Company board, into Hollis Beeler's seat. Marta nominated me and said one sentence. "His father would have made you people wait," Marta said. People ask me if I feel bad about the golf course. I don't. I feel bad about the trout. Here's what I learned, and it cost a season of alfalfa. Nobody up on that mesa ever checked. They had a story about how the water worked. Everybody repeated it, and after 60 years, it felt like a law. It wasn't, and one page from 1911 was heavier than all of it. So the lesson is cheap. Whatever a man owns, the document exists somewhere, and the date on it is the whole game. Most people never look. That's the entire reason the Diane Whitlocks of this world get as far as they get. The decree is back in the second drawer of my father's desk. I had a certified copy put in the county vault and keep the original where he kept it, under the receipts. It still doesn't lie flat. Every time I shut that drawer, it catches. I leave it that way on purpose. If this one was worth your time, subscribe and tell me in the comments what you'd have done at that microphone with the pen in your face.